Hi, I'm Maud Mosley. My pronouns are they, them, and welcome back to Tunes Tuesday, a series where I sit down with queer, 2S LGBTQ plus musicians and bands to talk to them about their music, their experiences, and much, much more. Today, I am joined by New Orleans-based rapper Henri Mayhem. Hey, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, my name is Henri Mayhem. Pronouns she, her, sometimes they, them. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, currently living in New Orleans. I make hip hop, I write poetry, but mostly I call my music queer hop. I call it that just mainly because I don't think it sounds the same as the hip hop you listen to on the music. I mean, listen to on the radio. I don't think it sounds the same as hip hop from like the 80s and the 90s. And I think it's very different and it's very, reminiscent of me, all my experiences, all the queer experiences in my entire life rolled into one. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I love that. And I really want to dive right into speaking about your music. So, one of your most recent singles released just this past March is Louisiana, which beautifully connects your past and your present through talking about food. So, can you share a bit more about this connection you have with food?
So it's interesting that I'm living in New Orleans now, because the song is called Louisiana, and the song is made like it first when I first came up with the idea for the song, it was really about hot sauce, because I really put hot sauce on everything I eat. Like currently, I'm not, but like I was just like I just would go in. And the person's food I didn't have to put the most hot sauce on was my mom's because it was just so flavorful. It was full of love. But just growing up, like I didn't grow up in a household where it was just like all lovey dovey. And one thing I was very scared of, like I was scared of, being who I was. I was scared of telling my mom like I was gay. And it was hard because I don't know if it was just the child in me, but something in me really believed that, if I told her this, then I couldn't eat anymore. Which isn't really a stretch because, and luckily I didn't have to experience that. But, many, LGBTQ, they basically, tell who they are and then are kicked out. Right. A lot of homeless down here, even in New Orleans, and it's just crazy. And so I think as a child, like I really thought I would lose, one of the best parts about my childhood, which was the food. And luckily I didn't, but the song in itself is kind of a tribute to that love, because she lives in a different state now, but even so, like she still communicates that love through food. And writing the song was very like a cathartic experience because I didn't really realize all the feelings I had about that until until I wrote that song. And I was like, wow, like one, I really love food. But two, I really love, my mom and that experience, though it was shaky and, at the time, like I have come out of it like a better person, a much stronger person. And yeah, this person still loves food.
Absolutely. I love that. And I do kind of want to take the next question to connect with a little bit more of what you just said. So, artists that, experience all kinds of oppression are typically expected to only create around trauma.
Yeah.
And something I've seen in your music is you're kind of starting to move away from that idea. So, your
Yeah.
songs tend to talk about difficult experiences, such as, experiencing homophobia from a partner's family in 310, and as you just mentioned, that, fear and trauma that you can go through when you're growing up and too scared to tell anyone that you're queer and you're single Louisiana. But each time you tend to follow up these lyrics with like a comedic line or a lyric just like filled with love that just lightens that mood. So do you
Yeah.
write like that intentionally? And how does it feel to be mixing up that typical narrative?
Wow, that's a great question. So like it is very, like you said, with queer artists, very typical to talk about those experiences. But I feel like my music is very reflective of my life. And I'm very like, I'm sarcastic. I'm very like, so the songs they come off as like sarcastic and witty sometimes because I think that's truly who I am as a person. And like just throughout my life, as much as like the experience of my queerness has like shaped me and had gave me difficulties, also gave me things to just laugh and be happy about, you know? And so I always include those things because that, you know, that is not my full experience. You know, like I'm a Black woman, so I have lots of other things to draw from. And like, especially like now I live in New Orleans, but living in Chicago, very diverse, you know, it's diverse, but also super segregated, you know, and I grew up on one of the roughest, like in the roughest part of Chicago. And so like even drawing from that experience and like as much pain as it is there, I think there's also just an eternal joy there about like my experiences. Like I'm just the type of person who doesn't see the bad in everything. Like I love to see the light in everything. And that's important to me, like especially when you have those, you know, traumatic experiences. Like you need to, but it's better to feed on the light. And so that's what I do a lot in my music. Like I sometimes, even when I write, sometimes I would say I center songs based off the comedic element of the song. Like even in Louisiana, you know, I say hot sauce on everything. It's like foreplay, right? And so when I start the next verse, I'm still, you know, talking about hot sauce. And though I might be going into something, you know, that's about to get kind of rocky, it's just better for me to start on that light note because there is so much. I think it's important to highlight the love that's surrounding us, regardless of all of our, you know, tragic experiences. So when I write, it really comes straight from the heart. And in my heart, I think there is a lot of like joy there. So
absolutely. And I have to say that just shines through all of your music. You do such a great job of communicating that, you know, whatever I'm listening to of yours. And then you have a new EP coming out soon that you've kind of started releasing some singles from called The Good Dyke Young, which is an incredible title.
Thank you.
It floored me. But outside of the EP name, you bring up the Dyke identity a lot. So I just kind of want to say, like, what does being a Dyke mean to you?
Yeah, so like, it's funny. So when I talk to other friends about it, so like in African-American community, a lot of times, like, you know, masculine presenting lesbians are identified as studs. So a lot of my friends are like, oh, I don't like that word. And like, one thing is I'm interested in like, as I go into the EP, I'm exploring what that word means to me because it's very interesting. And so like, I think that it's always been given a word given to like, it's been two things to me. It's a word given to like just white masculine identifying lesbians, right? Or it's just a word that it's the easiest word for in hip hop to go to be a derogatory term. So for lesbians, and I feel like I don't want it to be that anymore in hip hop. Now, like I'm not saying I can single-handedly change it, right? But I definitely just exploring the word. Like there's a part on the EP which it hasn't been released yet, but I'm definitely hearing a lot in hip hop, like in some of my favorite songs by some of my favorite artists, and even those who, you know, identify themselves as like woke or conscious, is just like a lot of derogatory and, you know, slander. And so the way I identify with that word has always been positive, like always been in the positive. And like the only time I've heard it in the negatory, like in a negative sense, was in hip hop. And so I want to change that. And then it's just the way. When I was titled the EP, The Good Dyke Young, I was just thinking about how fast I had to grow up based on my identity. I definitely lost a lot of like like a lot of people, they'll ask the question, because I'm not a big fan of Disney movies, and I haven't seen a lot of Disney movies besides like Mulan. And so like a lot of people are like, whoa, what kind of childhood did you have? And I'm just, then they kind of refrain from the question, like, wait, maybe I don't want to know. But my thing is like, the childhood I had was kind of like coming to terms with who I was super early. And so it was just like everything around me looked and felt different. Like, you know, and then you have to like, it's like you're a child, but you have to literally hide yourself, you know, and you're like, nah, I can't go around doing this. I'm 6, you know? And so a part of you, you know, dies from a young age, but it's also, I think that has contributed to me being the person I am. Like, I feel like in general, I feel like I'm a very good person and I try to be a good person, but I also just can see the child in everybody, and see that we're all learning and growing. And it's like, it's not, I'm not gonna say the best people in the world are queer people, right? But it's my general belief, honestly, because I feel like we just experience things so young, and we have we're hyper aware of the world because we become hyper aware of ourselves so young. So I think that's where the title comes from. And that word, to me, I'm really trying to feel positive, or have other people feel positive about the word, because I feel like I love it. Like, it's one of my favorite words. Like, so yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it has been so incredible to hear more about you, your experiences, and your music. I feel like I have so much to take away from this. And if you would like to check out her music or more about her, make sure to check out the links below. Thank you so much. See you next week, folks. And Henri Mayhem will be playing us out.
She only know your story in spark notes, the highest lights. She don't know about the closet or the constant fight or flight. But this is my advice, or at least was my advice to me. See, sometimes you stomach shit just so you can fucking eat, cause I can't really say what love